like, oh my god.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
I just found this book to be just okay. Hey friends, my name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a very exciting video that I've had planned for a few months now, and that is to read book recommendations that are recommended for fans of Stick Season, or more specifically Noah Kahan and his music. So recently in the month of December, I absolutely fell down a rabbit hole with this artist. I had never heard of him before, but I saw a lot of people putting him on like best of the year or like in their Spotify Wrapped, and I was like, who is this artist? And so I listened to Stick Season. That's the name of the album, by the way, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. Like, I love this album so freaking much, and I just thought maybe it would be fun to do a video kind of revolving around this album and reading books that are recommended for fans of this album, and maybe I can find some new favorites that way. If you've never heard of Noah Kahan or any of his music is very kind of like indie folk singer-songwriter kind of vibe. His music honestly makes me feel like I'm surrounded by the wilderness and like out in the woods, and I feel like a lot of people get that energy from his music. He reminds me of so many different artists that I love, like Vance Joy and like Mumford & Sons, Kings of Leon. Those are definitely some artists that come to mind that have like a similar vibe to him, but really his style is just so unique. And I think the biggest thing that I love about Noah Kahan and his music is his songwriting. Like, are you kidding me? His songs are just so well written, especially like all these songs on Stick Season. I feel like all of these songs give me the same feeling of like feeling homesick for the town that you grew up in, but also acknowledging the fact that sometimes it really sucks to live in the town that you grew up in, especially in the winter time during the season of the sticks. And you know, I'm not actually from the north, you know, I was actually born in California, but now I live in the Pacific Northwest, you know, in Washington. And so I definitely relate now quite a bit to those songs like Northern Attitude, and some of the songs just talking about how absolutely brutal and bleak it can be to live in these states in the wintertime. So to find these book recommendations, I went to Google and I went to TikTok. I was just kind of looking around everywhere on the internet to find people who were recommending books, and I was able to get a lot of recommendations this way. One of the websites I was able to pull a book recommendation from is this website called booksforward.com. They had this whole article that had a ton of books on this list that are Noah Kahan songs as book recommendations, and they had the book Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey for Northern Attitude, which is very exciting because I've been hearing about this book over the years and I never actually took the time to read it or really look into it. Like, I don't really even know what this one's about, but because I do think this book involves a lot of nature, I mean, I'm just assuming here, I think this book involves a lot of nature just based off of this cover alone. I was thinking this would be the perfect one to read from that article, especially because when I started looking through TikToks, I found this other TikTok here with Migrations included in that TikTok with books that have Noah energy. Like, there was a few other books mentioned here, but Migrations was the one that caught my eye here. And then I also found this other TikTok where this girl did a TikTok for books that feel like Noah Kahan songs, and I saw that she not only had Migrations, she also had Once There Were Wolves. This is by the same author as Migrations, and so I thought how perfect that I could potentially read both of these books by the same author for this video. I feel like this one, just looking at the cover, I feel like this does give me Stick Season vibes just looking at the cover with like the woods. And this is another one that I really have literally no idea what this book is about. I've actually had this one sitting on my bookshelf since August 2021, so I've been meaning to read this one for a while, but I still don't really know what this one's about. I know that it involves two sisters and that there's wolves, and I'm not entirely sure if this is more literary fiction or if it's more of a thriller. I'm not totally sure, but I thought it would be perfect to read both of these books for this video since they both seem like they have a lot to do with nature, and they were both recommended for fans of Noah Kahan. And then I was still searching through TikTok for different recommendations of books that I could read, and then I found this TikTok that's from Barnes & Noble actually, and it's book recommendations inspired by Noah Kahan's songs. And for the song Call Your Mom, they ended up recommending A Man Called Uva, and this one's by Frederick Bachman. This book has been out for like, I want to say like 10 years now, and it's been something that I've been seeing around, but I haven't picked this one up yet. And then ironically enough, I watched another TikTok from this girl Lauren, and she also mentioned this book specifically for the song Call Your Mom, which Call Your Mom, by the way, is such a beautiful song by this artist. I feel like that's one of the more underrated songs. But I was like, wow, the fact that two people on TikTok mentioned this book specifically for that song, it definitely has me intrigued. So I'm going to be reading this one for this video as well. And then I did want to mention, because I was going to read a fourth book for this video, but I ended up scrapping it because I DNF'd it for a second time. But that was Spells for Forgetting, because this one was also mentioned in that TikTok from Barnes & Noble. They mentioned this one for the song Stick Season specifically, specifically. And then I found this other TikTok that mentioned this book for the song Stick Season specifically. And then I found another TikTok that just kind of talked about this book in general and how this book gives all of the Noah Kahan vibes in it. And this is a book that I actually tried to read last year for a video that I was doing, and I DNF'd this book about 100 pages in last year, but I set it aside because I was like, maybe I'll pick it up another time. And then for this video, I did try to read this one, and I got about 50 pages in this time. This time I was trying to do it without the audiobook because I thought, well, maybe if it was the audiobook that wasn't working for me, maybe I could try to read it physically this time. But like, no, I still could not get into this book this time around either. I'm very frustrated that this book just doesn't feel like it's the book for me, but I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that this book also got recommended a lot. These are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading for this video. However, before we do jump into the reading, I just wanted to thank today's video sponsor, which is Factor, because Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. They have a whole team of gourmet chefs who create each meal, and they only use ingredients with integrity so that you can be feeling your best all day long. You'll have over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more. What I really like is that Factor is flexible to your schedule, so you can get as much or as little as you need by choosing between 6 to 18 meals per week. I think the most convenient thing about Factor is how quick these are ready, because you can just pop this thing into the microwave for 2 minutes and you have a really nice quality meal ready to go. It's the perfect solution if you're looking for something that's gonna be fast, but you don't want to have to sacrifice on the nutrition, and you don't even have to leave your house. I think that's the best part, especially during a busy workday when I'm trying to get stuff done and I don't have time to make lunch or even make dinner. It's just so convenient to pop this into the microwave for a few minutes and then you're ready to go. It's so nice because you don't have to worry about the prepping, the cooking, or the cleaning afterwards. It's just so convenient and it makes things so much faster so you can get back to what you were doing. But that's what's so great about Factor, because I don't have to feel like I'm missing out on a nutritious meal just because I didn't feel the energy to cook today. Factor also offers these wellness shots now, which are also really nice. They come in a few different flavors and they're really great when you just need that extra little boost in your day. So you can head to factor75.com and use my code gabbyreads50 to get 50% off your first box with Factor, as well as free wellness shots for life. So you would get 2 free wellness shots from 3 available flavors for every box while you are an active subscriber. So once again, that's head to factor75.com and you use my code gabbyreads50 to get 50% off your first box with Factor, as well as free wellness shots for life. How cool is that? Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the vlog. Let me send you back to about a week ago when I started this vlog on my sister's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
That is a birthday treat.
This is a birthday treat. How's it going? They're doing so much construction right by our apartment lately, and it's just really annoying, and I can't find times to update without the noise in the background, so I apologize. But today I just wanted to update because I have just started on Once There Were Wolves. I am about 80 pages into it now. Today is actually my sister's birthday. I mean, technically it's not her birthday. Her birthday's tomorrow, but we're celebrating my sister's birthday today because tomorrow she's gonna be going down to Bellevue with Obed, you know, her fiance, and spending the day with him. So we're gonna be celebrating her birthday today. And we just had a really nice morning. You know, we went to one of our favorite breakfast spots, and then we went out to like TJ Maxx and to Ulta, and we just had a really great day out. I actually ended up getting this new shirt from TJ Maxx that I'm obsessed with. Like, I love this color of blue. This story is really interesting so far because genre-wise, I'm not entirely sure where this one falls, but in it we're following this protagonist named Inti, and she has arrived in Scotland with her twin sister, and they both are leading this team of biologists, and what they're going to be doing is reintroducing these wolves into the remote highlands. So it's actually really interesting. Like, when I first heard this premise, I was like, oh, like, I don't know if this is going to be my kind of story, because this definitely feels like outside of something that I would typically read. But something that I do think is really cool is that these two characters, like, they're originally from Alaska, so there are a lot of like flashback chapters of like them them growing up in their childhood when they were in Alaska, and I love reading books with Alaska settings. Like, that's one of my dream locations. Anytime a book takes place in Alaska, it just feels like the most atmospheric book that I ever read. And then I also do love the setting of Scotland. I really love the way that this book is written so far. It's written in a very like thoughtful and interesting way. This is my first, book with this author, and so I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the writing style, but I'm already like immediately connecting with it. I've already started annotating it and putting in some tabs. I mean, I think this book has one of the most like shocking opening sentences for a book, because it just says, "When we were 8, Dad cut me open from throat to stomach." Like, they definitely had one of those childhoods where, they really like lived off the land, and they were taught to like not waste anything, and they were really taught to fend for themselves. Their mother is definitely the kind of person that's a realist, like she wants these girls to be able to protect themselves. She wants them to know that you can't trust other people. And their mom does seem a little bit like rough around the edges, but I think she has really good intentions, and that she's raising them to be aware of like the violence that exists in the world. I just really like the way that this book is written so far, and the way that it talks about violence. There's this one quote where she said, "There are languages without words, and violence is one of them." I also like how she's talking about the difference between her and her twin sister, because her twin sister is a little bit different from her in terms of like, she feels like she's a little bit more sensitive than her twin sister. And she's saying about her mom that she's like, "I knew she liked that Aggie, her sister, was so feisty, so quick to fight. It was me she didn't know how to handle. Me who was too soft and vulnerable. It frightened her that I didn't know how to protect myself, because what kind of creature is born without this instinct?" So I'm really enjoying this so far. I don't know, it has really good atmosphere. I love the like Scotland and the Alaskan atmosphere in this book. I'm also just really connecting with this protagonist, and I love the relationship that she has with her sister, but even more so, like, I like the complicated like family history that seems to be being explored in this book so far. I'm just having a great experience listening to this so far. Like, I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought that I would, because I was like, I don't know if this would be my kind of book, and it's definitely feeling different from anything that I've ever read before, but like in a good way, in like a refreshing way. Like, there's kind of like this drama, because like the locals in Scotland, like, they don't really want the wolves to be reintroduced into the society, because they're afraid that it's gonna kill off their livestock and like affect their farming. And so there's a lot of drama happening with the small town, and like the people are just kind of resisting and pushing against them. So it's kind of interesting to read about that as well. But yeah, anyways, I'm getting ready to leave for my sister's birthday dinner right now. We're gonna be going to this wood fire pizza restaurant that we all really love.
Happy birthday to you. Turtle cheesecake.
Done cheesecake.
next morning and I wanted to update you sooner, but I have just finished reading Once There Were Wolves. This morning, you know, I was planning on going out. I kind of wanted to like go out to the park and like get a coffee and read outdoors, but then when I woke up, it was like really raining so hard this morning and I was feeling kind of crampy, so I was like, I'm just gonna have a chill morning laying in bed and reading this book, and I'm kind of glad that I stayed in because this book, oh my god, 5 stars. I'm obsessed. I fucking cried. I cried so much at the end of this book, which I wasn't really expecting. And you know, as I mentioned, I jumped into this book not knowing a single thing about it. Like, I didn't even really know what genre we were getting ourselves into with this. I didn't even read the full premise here that tells you more things about what happens in this book, but I didn't realize that this was gonna end up being more of like a literary mystery kind of book. I mean, granted, you know, the mystery aspects of this book don't come in until I would say around like 100 pages in. And this story is, you know, on the shorter side. It's about 250 pages. But once that mystery got introduced into the story, I was like, oh shit, like this is so much more interesting. But I loved this so much more than I thought that I would. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, the beginning was definitely a bit of a slow burn. I think it takes some time to get introduced to the characters and to get a feel for the writing. And, you know, the mystery doesn't even really come in until about 100 pages in. So in the beginning, it is a little bit slow. But dude, once that story picks up, like, holy crap! Because not only was the mystery interesting, you know, because the mystery definitely has something to do with these wolves that they're like raising in the society, because, you know, in this story there's a murder in the small town that they're in, and they're starting to wonder, like, is it the wolves who were responsible for this murder, or was it a person, that's trying to make it look like the wolves were the ones responsible for this murder. And none of that is a spoiler anyway, because it actually talks all about this in the premise, which I did not even read. I just love that the way this book was written. I love the way that it talks about violence within people and within animals. There was one quote that I thought perfectly summed up this entire book when she said, I think it's civilization that makes us violent. We infect each other. She said, I used to think people were good. I used to think we were mostly kind, all of us forgivable, and now I know better. I feel like that really like summarizes the tone and the feeling of this book. There were just so many great quotable moments. Like, I annotated this book like a little bitch, like you would not believe. I also just, gosh, this book checks so many boxes for me, you know, because it has a really great sister relationship at the center of this story that I was just rooting for the entire book. Like, I adored them. I love this main protagonist, Inti. She was like such a strong-minded person, and I just really connected and related to a lot of the different things she would talk about. I just really loved all of the characters in this book. Like, I feel like all of the characters were so well fleshed out and so interesting. I also just loved the like nature feel of this book, because like I could see why this book would be recommended for fans of Stick Season, because it feels like you're in the middle of a forest or like in the middle of the woods while you're reading this book. It is so atmospheric of like the trees and like the moodiness of living somewhere like this where there's like a lot of snow and a lot of animals. And this book really does start with feeling like a little bit more of like one of those like environmental kind of fiction books where you're just kind of like learning about the environment for these wolves, but then it really quickly turns into this like murder mystery kind of story, and these characters just have these very interesting pasts. I love the way that this author would explore the background of these characters and the way that we would learn about how their trauma and like the things that they've gone through have really shaped how they see the world now. There were some truly awful scenes in this book to read about, so I would not recommend if it's difficult for you to read about violence. Like, this was a lot more gruesome than I was anticipating. There's a lot of animal violence in this book, as well as like, you know, sexual violence with humans and just violence in general with humans. It was a lot more gory and gruesome than I was anticipating, which made it very difficult to stomach some of these scenes. I was like, oh my gosh. So that was not always easy to read, but it also just like pulled at my heartstrings even more because of how realistic it felt. This author just does not hold back. And as far as like the mystery goes, with like the mystery of like what happened to this man, I also thought it was so interesting, and like I personally didn't see it coming. Like, I was shocked by like what ended up happening with the mystery elements of this. Like, holy shit, I can't believe that I found a new 5-star all-time favorite from doing this video. Like, this is so crazy. And I'm so glad that I'm gonna be reading another book from this author for this video. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if that book is 5 stars too? I really am though. I'm starting to learn about myself that usually one of my top favorite genres now is these literary fiction books that have like a touch of like mystery and thriller elements to them, but they really read a lot more like literary fiction. Like, just in terms of tone, I think if you liked Long Bright River, you know, this is another like literary mystery kind of book that I am just obsessed with. I also have Notes on an Execution, which is one of my favorites of all time. And then most recently, you know, Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. I would say these are also both like literary thriller, like literary mystery thriller type of books. Even Happiness Falls by Angie Kim I would put in this category, and also Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I would say this reads more like literary fiction, but it feels kind of like mystery thriller vibes at times. And I've just discovered recently that mystery thrillers that read more like literary fiction are my shit. Like, I absolutely love these kinds of books. So I think if you enjoyed any of these 5 books, I feel like there would be a pretty good chance that you would enjoy Once There Were Wolves as well. Or at least I would put this book in the same category as any of those 5 books. Like, oh my god, I can't believe how much I loved this. It was just so great. And I can't wait to read the next book for this video, and I hope it goes just as well.
Clouds roll by, glittering. I never thought they would let me in. A fading light, a distant call. The devil will never be alone.
Hello, I thought it would be a good time to update you because I have started on A Man Called Uva. I think that's how you say it. Every part of me keeps wanting to say Uve, but on the audiobook, he's pronouncing it like Uva, so I'm gonna go with Uva. I just decided to drive down here to get an acai bowl this morning, which you probably just saw in that last clip. And then I also decided to drive down here because I wanted to go and see Godzilla -1 in theaters by myself. So that's what we're gonna be doing this morning, which I'm really excited about because I've actually never gone to the movie theater by myself before. This is gonna be a first time thing for me. And I am gonna be working on a Patreon exclusive vlog that'll go up at some point this year where I'm gonna be doing like a bunch of things by myself for the first time. And so this is gonna be the first thing for that video, and I'm very excited about that. But anyways, A Man Called Uwe is about this old man, and this old man is kind of like your typical kind of like grumpy old man. But the thing that I find surprising about his character is the fact that he's supposed to be only 59 years old. I'm like, what? For some reason, he is reading in this book as if he's in his like 70s or even his 80s. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't buy the fact that he's 59 years old. Like, he's literally a lot younger than my dad, and my dad is nowhere near close to this much of a grumpy old man in his 60s. Like, what? So I'm not gonna lie, the age of this man is throwing me off quite a bit. Like, he reads like he's a lot older than 59 years old. But, you know, this guy is dealing with a lot, you know, because his wife has passed away, and his wife was really like his reason in life to live. And so this book is kind of about how he's like trying to find a new purpose in life, but he is just so grumpy, and he has these like strict routines, and he's just very like judgmental of everyone and everything around him. And I don't know, the reason why I haven't really read this book is because I always assumed this wouldn't really be my thing, and honestly, like 50% of the way through the book, I don't really know if this book is my thing or not. I mean, I do think what Frederick Bachman does incredibly well in this book is he somehow manages to make it like really sad and kind of like really serious while also making it so like lighthearted and like funny at the same time. Because, you know, obviously it's sad to watch this kind of like grumpy old man try to figure out life without his wife, and he's literally to the point where he's kind of like suicidal at the beginning of this book. And so it is sad, you know, like it's sad to read this in a way, but then he somehow manages to make the writing and the story feel so lighthearted. Like, it still manages to be funny. And I like that the main story that seems to be happening is how he's developing this unlikely friendship with his neighbors, you know, but then we also do get flashback chapters that kind of show how he met his wife back in the day. I feel like the flashback chapters, to me, they do feel a little bit boring. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It's like, it's sweet how he met his wife, but it's also like, it's just cliche after cliche of like, oh my god, she was the most beautiful woman in the room, and I thought she was out of my league, and I didn't deserve her, and then like, she was my only reason to live, she was the reason why I smiled every day. It's just very like, it's cliche a little bit in that way. Like, I feel like it's lacking the depth that I'm like really looking for in those chapters. I don't know, it's not that I'm disliking the book, because I'm definitely enjoying it. I feel like it's a really easy audiobook experience as well. Like, I think the audiobook is really well done. But at the same time, like, I don't know if I see myself giving this any higher than like 3 stars, which I know maybe it makes me sound heartless, I don't know, but I'm just not connecting with this the way that I thought that I would. I kind of knew that this book wasn't going to end up being my thing. Like, even though I've enjoyed Frederick Bachman in the past, I just don't know what it is about this one. I always just assumed like, oh, I don't know if I want to read about a grumpy old man like trying to figure out his reason in life. Yeah, so far it's going just okay. I think I am going to try to finish it up. I don't know if I'll be able to finish this one today, but if not, I'll definitely try to finish this one up tomorrow. Okay, hello, it is the next afternoon. It's been about 24 hours since the last update. Today I have had a super productive day. Like, it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I've just been doing stuff all day long. I've been filming a lot for my February reset video today, which you might have already seen that video. And I've just been getting a lot of stuff done while listening to this on audio. I love when I'm able to do kind of like mindless tasks. Like, I was scheduling a lot of like StreamYard stuff for my Patreon for the month of February, like working on my content calendar and then like scheduling posts for Patreon in advance, because usually like at the start of the month I really like to schedule everything in advance so that all the posts are just ready to go and scheduled and I don't have to think about it. So I was kind of working on all of those things this morning while I was listening to this and doing some cleaning, and I ended up finishing the audiobook. You know, I really wish that I had better news to share with you, or that I had a change of heart when it comes to this book, but honestly, I just found this book to be just okay. I do think that this book is maybe just a little bit overhyped for what it actually is. Like, yeah, it's a beautiful story about an old man who isn't even sure if he wants to live in this world after his wife has died, and then it's about, you know, this unlikely friendship that he develops with these neighbors, and the story is really just that simple. I just think for me personally, I guess I never really connected with Uwe as a protagonist. Like, most of the time I found him a little bit difficult to read about because he would just be so grumpy and so angry all the time, and I do get that that's kind of the point of this book. I thought it was kind of slow. Like, there were definitely sections towards the middle where I started, like, my brain started wandering while I was listening to the audiobook, and I kept having to like go back and start the chapter over because I wasn't paying attention. It just didn't really hold my interest the way that I was expecting it to. I also feel like the ending of this book was a bit of, you know, what I was expecting. I don't know, there was nothing about this ending that really surprised me, and it didn't really personally make me emotional, even though I do see how other people could read that ending and get really emotional over it. And I feel so terrible that I just want to give this book 3 stars. Like, it was just okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I just feel very middle of the road about this one. But I am glad that I read this for this video specifically, because I do see the similarity and the connection between this and Call Your Mom. I was reading some of the lyrics to Call Your Mom as soon as I finished reading this, and I was like, oh wow, like, it really feels like this song could have almost been inspired by this book, so I 100% get the recommendation. Some of these lyrics that say, oh, you're spiraling again at the moment right before it ends you're most afraid of, but you don't cancel any plans because I won't let you get the chance to never make them. Stayed on the line with you the entire night till you let it out and let it in. Don't let this darkness fool you. All lights turned off can be turned on. I'll drive all night. I'll call your mom. Waiting room, no place to stand. His greatest fears and wringing hands and the loudest silence. If you could see yourself like this, you'd have never tried it. I just think that's so powerful, you know? Like, this song, the lyrics, they definitely carry the same message that I think that this book is trying to send, where like, even when you feel like all hope is lost and you just don't really have a reason to go on anymore, there's always hope, you know? Like, there's always gonna be something that's worth living for. And I think that's a really beautiful thing for these to have in common. So I definitely understand the recommendation for this book for that song. It's just personally not exactly my taste of a book, which is fine. Like, if it could be this temperature like every day, I'd be so happy with it. 60 degrees is so ideal. Feels like June. Okay, hello! It is the next day and I am currently doing some reading sprints with my friend Gavin on Patreon. Already 106 pages in, and this one isn't even that long either. This one's only about 250 pages, so I'm about 43% of the way through this one on audio right now. And this story's been really interesting so far. We're following this woman named Franny, and she's originally from Ireland, but she's gonna be going to Greenland because she's trying to see these birds and their migration. Like, they might be migrating for the last time. This book takes place in a very like near future after climate change has really made a lot of animals go extinct. And so she's trying to find a fishing crew that will take her on their boat so she can track the birds as they're migrating. From what I understand, I don't know, a little bit of the beginning of this was going over my head a little bit because it was definitely reading kind of similar to the last book that I read this author, where the beginning of it is feeling very just like fictional book that involves a lot of climate discussion. It was a little bit of a slow start for me, but I feel like something this author does so well is fleshing out her characters over time. Like, I'm already starting to feel really emotionally attached to this protagonist, but also to all of the characters in this book. I just feel like she writes such a compelling story. Like, it sounds like it would be boring when I try to pitch this to you, and at the beginning it was a little bit boring for me, but the more that I'm reading, the more that I'm just falling in love with the story and the writing style. Like, in the first chapter of the book, one of the things that just gripped me right away is when she said, "Once when the animals were going, really and truly, and not just in warnings of dark futures, but now, right now, in mass extinctions we could see and feel, I decided to follow a bird over an ocean." And she said, "Maybe I thought I'd discover whatever cruel thing drove me to leave people and places and everything always, or maybe I was just hoping the bird's final migration would show me a place to belong. Once it was birds who gave birth to a fiercer me." Like, goddamn, that writing is so freaking stunning. I also just love in general the talk about nature in this book and just the weird like scientific facts that this girl knows. I like how she says, "We're the only planet that has oceans. In all the known universe, we're the only ones sitting in the perfect spot for them. Not too hot, not too cold. It's the only reason we're alive, because it's the ocean that creates the oxygen we need to breathe. It's a miracle we're here at all when you think about it like that." I also really love this quote that also kind of has to deal with like climate change and like people and how we live our lives, where she said, "A life's impact can be measured by what it gives and what it leaves behind, but it can also be measured by what it steals from the world." Like, goddamn, I'm just loving the writing in this book so much. The writing does feel very similar to the last book that I just read from this author. I feel like if I had to choose and had to compare them, I do think so far I'm preferring the story and the characters from Once There Were Wolves a little bit more than this one, but I can see this one growing on me the more that I'm reading it, and I just have such a good feeling about this one. Like, this is definitely giving me 4-star energy, maybe even 5-star energy, depending on if it emotionally impacts me the same way that the last book from this author did. But I'm having a really good time with this. I'm still doing reading sprints with Gavin right now. We'll probably do at least 1 or 2 more sprints, so I'm really hoping to make a dent in this today, or maybe even finish up on this one today. I think that would be cool.
Oh, honey. Oh, oh no. Hold it. You hold it. Take you hold it.
Did you really think that I could wrap up this reading vlog without at least attempting a cover of a song by Noah Kahan? Because no, I couldn't. This song is Stick Season. This is definitely like his most popular song, and it just feels right. It feels like I had to do this for this video because I love doing guitar covers. I've been playing guitar ever since I was 13 years old, and it's just always been a big passion of mine. You know, I'm a big music person.
As you promised me that I was more than all the miles combined, you must have had yourself a change of heart like halfway through the drive, because your voice trailed off exactly as you passed my exit sign. Kept on driving straight and left our future to the right. Now I am stuck between my anger and the blame that I can't face, and memories are something even smoking weed does not replace. And I am terrified of weather, cause I see you when it rains. Doc told me to travel, but there's COVID on the planes. And I love Vermont, but it's the dream each night of some version of you that I might not have, but I did not lose. Now you're tired tracks and one pair of shoes, and I'm split in half. That'll have to do.
That song is not as easy as it looks, okay? I had so much fun though. I love that song. I love it. I adore it. I love the I'm split in half, but that'll have to do. That is such a great lyric. Freaking bars. Hello, how's it going? It is the next morning. I apologize that the lighting is really weird in my room right now, but you know, it is the season of the sticks, as one might say. I mean, it's just really dark. It's been really dark and gloomy for a lot of January and February. But anyways, I did want to update you because I have finished reading Migrations. I actually ended up finishing it this morning because last night I was reading it until I had about 50 pages left, but then I just was not in the mood to finish this book late last night. And I have mixed feelings about this one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really did end up enjoying this book overall. I'm probably gonna give it somewhere around like a 3.5 star. I think my issue with this book was more just I didn't connect with the main character in this book as much as I connected with most of the characters in Once There Were Wolves. And I think even though these books are very similar in a lot of ways, I think they really do have very different tones to them, because this one does really have the like compelling kind of like mysterious aspect of this book where you're trying to solve a murder basically that's at the center of this story. Whereas with Migrations, I feel like the mystery elements of this book are more revolving around our main protagonist and her past, as we're slowly getting to uncover some secrets from her past. But for me personally, I just didn't emotionally connect with these characters and with this story as much as I did with this one, so I guess I went into this one with some high expectations because of how much I loved this other one. But this book was still really interesting. It was still beautifully written. It still had really well fleshed out characters. Like, there was nothing wrong with this one. I guess I just wasn't as invested in it as I expected to be after loving this other one so much. I don't know why with this book in particular, I found it to be a little bit confusing sometimes the way that this book would jump around in storylines, because you know, we would be following our same protagonist throughout the whole book, but the timeline would always be different, because sometimes it would be present day, but then we'd flash 4 years ago, 12 years ago, and sometimes it would be hard to follow like which timeline we were in. And even though this book does that as well, I found it a little bit easier to follow in this one as opposed to this book. Like, I don't know, at times I just found it a little bit difficult to follow the different timelines. I also just felt like slightly less interested in certain timelines than I was with others. So I think overall the pacing of this one also felt a little bit slower than what I was expecting, but I still really enjoyed it. It's still 3.5 stars, and I'm so glad that I decided to read both of these books for this vlog, because I don't know if I ever would have picked these up on my own. I mean, I know I did own this copy beforehand, but this has been sitting on my shelf since 2021. Like, clearly I didn't have any kind of like urgent interest in reading this book, but because I read this book in this video, I would consider this video to be a massive success, because like this is a new all-time favorite of mine. This is a book that I could see myself rereading in the future. Like, I loved these characters. Like, I've been thinking about this book non-stop this whole week, and I do think all 4 of these books are solid recommendations for fans of Stick Season. I can definitely see why these 4 books would be getting recommended a ton. And even though Spells for Forgetting is not like necessarily my kind of book, like it's not my ideal read, but I can totally see why this would be recommended for fans of Stick Season. Like, I would 100% get it. But yeah, I think that is going to be a wrap on this reading vlog, so you'll have to let me know if you've read any of these books that I read for this video. Please let me know what are your thoughts on them. And also, if you happen to be a fan of the Stick Season album as well, then like let me know which songs are your favorites. I think for sure my top 5 favorite songs that are on the Stick Season album would probably be Stick Season, She Calls Me Back, Northern Attitude, Homesick, and All My Love. I think those have to be my top 5, but I also really love Call Your Mom, I love Orange Juice, I love Dial Drunk, but I'm specifically talking about the She Calls Me Back featuring Casey Musgraves. Like, that one is freaking superior, and I love Casey Musgraves so much, so I really love that collab. And then also the Northern Attitude featuring Hosier, because that one is just so freaking god tier in every way. So yeah, I'd just be really curious to know if you're also a fan of this artist, then please let me know some of your favorite songs from him. And thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun working on this reading vlog. I hope it was fun for you to watch, and I hope to do more vlogs like this in the future that are just kind of like random and themed after a certain thing that I'm really loving. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.